Merry Christmas, everyone. Phoenix Knight here. Welcome to the channel, and welcome back to Christmas in Arkham. I hope everyone is having a very Merry Christmas. It's Christmas Eve as I record this, and I expect this video to go up Christmas Day. Last week when we played Arkham Horror 2nd Edition, we managed to defeat Ithaqua by sealing away 6 gates in Arkham. This week, we're going to close Christmas in Arkham with our last leg of the campaign, Elder Sign. As we have been for the last 2 weeks, we're up against Ithaqua, the Windwalker. In terms of the score, we've already won Christmas in Arkham 2-0. But, to get the sweep, we're going to have to venture to Alaska to do it. Fortunately for us, Elder Sign gives us a way to do that, so today as we play Elder Sign, we'll actually be playing Elder Sign Omens of Ice against Ithaqua. With that musing, let's go through our current adversary and our current roster of investigators, and we'll start off by looking at Ithaqua and relevant details for Omens of Ice. As we go through Omens of Ice details, let's go ahead and work from top to bottom here. So we'll start off with our ancient one. We'll start off with our version of Ithaqua in Elder Sign Omens of Ice. So you can see his task up here. That is going to be a tough battle task if we get there. 5 research, a peril, and a terror. And then the modifier during the game. At the start of each investigator's turn, add 1 storm marker to each adventure without a storm marker. That investigator may discard 1 item, clue, spell, or ally to prevent this. So let me talk a little bit about the storm markers that we're going to be facing. So they'll go on the board, they'll go on the adventure. That's what they'll look like. And on the back, there'll be an effect that it'll have on them. In this case, if we were to be resolving this storm marker, you would advance the clock once. So the storm markers come up on the board on the various adventures. I've got one that happens to be here. So those are basically like entry effects. If you remember when we played through Elder Sign back at the end of the Dream Eaters campaign, link to that video will be in the description down below, we had what were called entry effects on various adventures that we had there. Those were effects that we had to resolve before we even started the adventure. Storm markers will work exactly the same way. And then as we come back to Ithaqua, we see on his Doom track that we'll also be adding storm markers. So every time we get a Doom icon that covers up one of those, then we have to add 3 storm markers to adventures. We'll talk more about the attack when we get into the Ancient One battle if we make it that far. Anyway, we also have Expedition Camp that we can do, but this will work a little bit differently because normally when you do something at the entrance in the museum, that's your entire turn. You don't have a resolution phase. This happens at the start of the clock phase, so after you've gone through the resolution phase. If you're at the Expedition Camp at the start of your clock phase, an investigator may pay the listed cost to do any one of the following. For 6 trophies, you may remove up to 5 storm markers from adventures. 5 trophies gives you an ally. 4 trophies will give you either a unique item or a clue. 3 trophies will give you a common item or a spell. 2 will let you regain 2 stamina or 2 sanity. 1 trophy will discard the top card of the adventure deck. So the way that will work is it'll depend on which phase of the adventure deck we're in. So if we're in stage 1, we'll discard the top card of the stage 1 adventure deck. If we're in stage 2, we'll discard the top card of the stage 2 adventure deck. That will be determined by what status we're at on the special adventures. But I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself there. We also have our supply track. So just because Ithaqua is already a nightmarish ancient one in Omens of Ice, we're going to do this expedition during the summer. I know thematically it's near Christmas, so we should be doing this during the winter, but we're going to do this during the summer. So on the supply track, we do have an at midnight effect we need to keep an eye out for. At midnight, if investigators have 0 supplies, each investigator loses a stamina. And this track actually starts at 15 supplies, so there'll be rewards on the adventures or in the Mythos deck that can cause us to lose those supplies. So if we advance back to 9, we'll flip this back over, and then we'll be back in single digits. So it'll start on the 15. Then on the day track down here, I'll put this down so it's a little easier for me to manipulate it. As we go through each day, as you remember, we have a clock phase where we advance the clock 3 hours. So as we go through each day, we'll move this down 1, then we'll do any at midnight effects, then we'll go into the Mythos card like normal. So as we move down to day 3, we start adding more storm markers to adventures, until eventually we're adding 2 Doom tokens to Ithaqua's track every time, which we have to be careful with that, because if the game starts going too long, we're just going to fly through waking up Ithaqua. And one thing we do need to be aware of that I will mention now, because it's something we need to keep an eye on. When Ithaqua awakens, if there are less than 8 Elder Signs on this sheet, the investigators lose the game. As you can see, we need 12 Doom to wake up Ithaqua, and we need 15 Elder Signs to seal him away. But we need to have at least 8 to even have a chance to fight him. So I'll talk more about the main attack when we get there, but I think that's everything relevant for Omens of Ice until we talk about the adventure deck. Now, let's go meet our roster of investigators in Elder Sign, and we'll start off with Jenny. Before I jump into the investigators, I do want to apologize in advance for any background noise you might pick up. I'm actually out visiting my family for Christmas. But anyway, let's take a look first at Jenny Barnes, the dilettante, who has been our mysterious benefactor all along. As you can see, she starts off with 6 sanity and 4 stamina. I've got all the tokens there ready to go. Then we'll take a look at her card. Jenny Barnes, the dilettante. Trust Fund. At the start of her resolution phase, Jenny may discard 1 common item, clue token, or spell to add the yellow and red dice to her pool. But as you notice, the art that we're going to actually use to represent her looks a little bit different. It's actually her mini card from Arkham Horror, the card game. There are 2 main reasons I use the mini cards from the card game instead of the tokens that come with Elder Sign. 1, the tokens are tiny and they're hard to find. 2, this actually serves as a nice activation token because for my audience who plays Arkham Horror, the card game, which I know a lot of you don't, but actually these mini cards serve as a very nice activation token. You can see it's colored on the front, so you know that Investigator has not gone yet. If you flip it over, it's black and white to signify that they've gone for the round. So we'll go ahead and move Jenny over to the Expedition Camp, and then we'll take a look at her starting items. So Jenny starts off with a common item. We can use both of these to pitch to her trust fund. Let's see what she starts off with. She starts off with Brass Knuckles, which gives her the yellow die. Then the spell that she starts off with is Red Sign of Shudemel, which lets us lock a die. And that's something we can only cast on her turn. Anyway, that will do it for Jenny. Now let's move over to Lily. Here's Lily Chen, the martial artist. She starts off with 5 health and 5 sanity. We'll take a look at her investigator card. Yin and Yang, at any time, Lily may spend 1 sanity to regain 1 stamina, or spend 1 stamina to regain 1 sanity. She cannot spend her last stamina or sanity. She starts off with 2 unique items and a clue. Now, the way we're probably going to end up using that most of the time is if we see a reward that's stacked toward losing a lot of sanity, losing a lot of 1, we can use her special ability to stack that stat so that if we fail the adventure, we're not getting hit quite so hard. Of course, Lily might end up spending a lot of time at Expedition Camp if we need to use that ability rather aggressively. Once again, we'll take a look at her mini card. So that's Lily when she's yet to go, and when she's been activated. So we'll move her over to Expedition Camp. Now, the clue that she starts with we can use to re-roll any number of dice. So that's what the clue token is used for. Then we'll take a look at Lily's 2 unique items. First up she has the Burnick carving. Gain this die even if it's locked, which gives her the red die. And the Ruby of Relay, which gives her the red die. So we've got a couple of ways to give her the red dice right off the bat. But anyway, Lily's moved over to Expedition Camp, so that will do it for her. Now let's go spend a little time with Monty. Here's our first look at Monterey Jack, the archaeologist. Starts off with 3 health and 7 sanity. We'll take a look at his investigator card here. Starts off with a common and 2 unique items. Archaeology. Each time Monterey gains 1 or more unique items after setup, he gains 1 extra unique item. So that should help us go through the unique item deck very quickly. Then here's his Investigator card. Once again, active side and inactive side. So we'll move him over to Expedition Camp. Then we'll take a look at his starting items. First off, we'll look at his common item. He starts off with Ancient Tome, which gives us a yellow die. Then we have 2 unique items. First up, Holy Water. Discard to choose 1 investigator to become blessed. So since it's probably going to become relevant before too long, let me explain how bless and curse work. So there are 2 conditions. You've seen them before in Eldritch Horror and in 2nd edition, whether it was Christmas in Arkham or on other playthroughs you may have watched on YouTube. So the way bless and curse work in this game is if you're blessed, you'll get what's known as a white die. It functions effectively as another green die. So you can use that in addition to your normal dice. But if you fail an adventure, become cursed, or when the Ancient One awakens, you discard your blessed condition. Conversely, if you're cursed, you'll gain the black die, and the way the cursed die works is it'll eat a matching result. So say for instance you're cursed, and if your roll ends up being something like that, then the cursed die would eat that and you wouldn't be able to use it on the adventure. Then you discard this card when you complete an adventure, become blessed, or the Ancient One wakes up. So we also get rid of that when everything happens. And then the second unique item Monty has, after rolling, Blue Watcher of the Pyramid. After rolling, discard to change 1 die to a lore result. So we can use that to mitigate things, especially if we need a lore result, we can use that to get that. Anyway, that will do it for Monty. Now let's go look at Diana. And now we have our first look at Diana Stanley, the Redeemed Cultist. She starts off with 4 sanity, 6 stamina. Also starts off with a spell and a clue. Her special ability is Dark Insight. Each time Diana defeats a monster, she gains 1 clue token at the end of the resolution phase. Once again, we'll take a look at Diana's mini card. There's her active side and her inactive side. So we'll send her over to Expedition Camp to join her comrades in Alaska. Then, like I said, she starts off with a clue, and we get a spell. So we'll take a quick look at the spell. Diana's starting spell here is Find Gate. Discard to draw 1 Otherworld card and place it below the 6 adventure cards. So that could actually be pretty handy to have to give us potentially give us a jump on Elder Signs, because one problem we might run into in Stage 1 is we're not going to find a lot of the Elder Signs that we're going to need to seal Ithaqua away, and remember, we need 15. So any way we can get Elder Signs will be very welcome. But with that, let's move back over to the board and look at our starting adventures. Alright, so in Omens of Ice, it's hard to see from this distance. I'll point each one out as we spawn them out. But the way this is going to work is the top row of adventures is going to be face up. These adventures are going to be face down. We'll have to deal with an effect on the back before we get to them, and then we're going to have one that's going to be face up when we get done with the setup here. So our first adventure that we have here, this will be a face up adventure. We're looking at Whiteout. So on entry, we have to add 3 storm markers to adventures unless we lose 3 supplies. We'll need 2 research, then we'll need a peril and lose 1 health, then a terror and a lore. If we succeed at this one, we either get 2 common items, we don't advance the clock, and we get a spell. If we fail, we either advance the clock once and add storm markers to adventures, or add storm markers to adventures and lose a resource. Let me double check those two penalties. I believe the storm marker is 3 storm markers and lose 1 supply, and then lose 1 supply. So, yes. So we add 3 storm markers to adventures and lose... Looks like it's lose 1 supply most likely. Yep. If you can't, we lose a stamina instead. So we do need to be aware of our supply track very carefully. Then as we look at the second face-up adventure, we're going to have... Hunter of Men. On a terror effect, lose 2 stamina unless one investigator discards 1 clue. So what the terror effects mean is if you roll that icon and you're not able to clear, then you have to do the terror effect if you fail the adventure. So you do terror effects before you discard dice, and I'll explain that a little more when we get into our first adventure. So we need a peril and a lore, then a peril and a terror. And it's an ordered task, so we need to do this first and then this second. If we succeed, we get 3 common items. If we fail, we either discard an ally or put a doom on Ithaqua's doom track and lose 2 health. So that's definitely not one we want to fail if we can help it. Then our last face-up adventure in that top row is Last Breath. On entry, each investigator may spend 2 trophies to gain a spell or a clue. You need 4 research to clear it, and you need 4 research, 2 terror, and lose a sanity. If you succeed, you either get a clue and become blessed, or gain an elder sign and a spell. But if you fail, you're either cursed and lose a sanity, or you put a doom on the doom track and lose a sanity. So something we need to be very careful of. Then we have 3 face-down adventures. These have effects that we need to do before we go into the adventure. So face-down on this one, we see Downtown Anchorage. You may spend 2 trophies to gain 1 common item. And that's a may, so we don't have to do that, especially if we're keeping trophies for something else. Then we have Base Camp, where you may regain 1 sanity or 1 stamina. But again, we won't know what's on the back of these until we go to them and actually do the adventure. Then our last face-down adventure, we have the Wetlands, where we advance the clock unless we lose a supply. So this thing's going to eat our supplies like crazy if I had to guess. Then our last special face-up adventure that we have is Arrival, which this actually goes into play area face-up during setup. So let's take a look at what we've got here. Arrival. At midnight, we advance the clock. And we have an ordered task, so we need 2 separate instances of 2 research, and then 1 of 3. So if we succeed, we put the Into the Wild special adventure into play, but if we fail, we advance the clock twice. So I'll go through the first turn that we go over to Jenny. I'll go through a turn in greater detail for my audience who may be new to the channel and or has never played Elder Sign before. So with that, I think we're ready to get our first Mythos card on the board. So we find something in the food. We can either throw it into the stew or throw it out. Throw it into the stew, each investigator loses a stamina, or throw it out. Lose 2 supplies and a monster appears. I don't want to get a monster out this early. And not that I'm real happy with losing 1 stamina, but I think stamina is probably going to be a little easier to recover. So everyone's going to lose a stamina, which will put Jenny down to 3, Lily down to 4, Diana to 5, and Monty to 6. So like I said, I'm not thrilled about losing stamina all across the board this early, but I think it's better than the alternative in this case. But that's our first Mythos card, so now we're ready to get this show started. Jenny looking at the board for our first round of adventures. Actually, we'll transition into the movement phase, into our first round proper, and we'll start with Jenny. Jenny looking at the board, since she just lost a stamina and she's our lowest on max stamina, I think with her I'm going to prioritize letting her regain stamina. So I'm going to move her down to our unknown base camp adventure, which will let her regain the stamina that she just lost. So we'll bring So we'll bring that back over to Jenny's investigator card. We'll let her go up to full strength. Then we'll take a look at what's on the back of this card. Now we have to start the adventure. So we find Winter's Song. So we'll go through the flavor text here as well. In the morning, we found several of our number outside, heads upturned to the sky. They had all choked to death on the falling snow. On entry, each investigator must either lose 1 sanity or add 1 storm marker to an adventure. So we need 1 research, then 2, then a terror, and lose 1 sanity. If we succeed, we get a clue, a spell, and regain 2 sanity. If we fail, we either put a doom on Ithaqua's doom track or lose 2 sanity. So looking at the entry effect, which now we're committed to this adventure, so we have to do the entry effect. I think Jenny's going to lose a sanity, since she's highest on that, so that brings her down to 5. Lily will also lose a sanity, which will bring her down to 4. Diana will lose a sanity, bring her down to 3. Monty would go down to 2, so I'm going to add a storm marker to an adventure. So I think the storm marker I'm going to add an adventure to is we're going to add one to downtown Anchorage. So we're going to flip one, we're going to pull one of these out of this dice bag where I've got the storm markers. There's our storm marker, so we'll put that on downtown Anchorage. Now each adventure can only have a max of 4 storm markers on it. I believe that's the max. Let me double check that. I think it's 4, but I'm not going to swear to it. Placing storm markers, unless all other adventures have storm markers, and now I will swear to it. And actually, I stand corrected on the Doom icon. When I was talking about the Doom icon on Ithaqua's track, it's actually 3 storm markers that we add to the Doom track. But anyway, now I'm getting off track. Let's drop down to Jenny and see what she can do with this adventure. So the way a turn works, so we started off with the movement phase where we decided where Jenny was going to go for her turn. Now we go into the resolution phase, which now is also where Jenny's trust fund ability becomes relevant. So if we want to, we can discard a common item, a spell, or a clue to add the yellow and red dice to her pool. Looking at this adventure, though, I don't think we need to do that. So, because in theory, this is an adventure that should only take 3 dice. So what we're going to do is we're going to take 6 of these green dice. So as you can see, the dice here have various faces on them. They have various levels of research, 1, 2, and 3. A lore, there's the peril, and there's the terror I was talking about. So we do have an adventure that has a terror effect on it. So if we roll this on an adventure and fail to clear it, then we have to do whatever the terror, and fail to clear a task on there, then we have to do the terror effect on the adventure. But let's go ahead and see what we're able to do with this adventure. I'll go from this side. We're actually able to clear that nice and easily. So we can use an instance of if we've got more than an adventure calls for. So we can, for instance, for the 1 and the 2, we can use 2 separate instances of 3. But in this case, because they are marked by a dividing line, they do have to be separate. So we'll use 2 of those. We'll use the terror, and we'll lose 1 sanity from Jenny, bringing her down to 4. And we'll clear that adventure. So that'll move over to Jenny, become a trophy marker worth 1 trophy. But before we get into that, we need some rewards for Miss Jenny. So let me put the sanity back where they should actually go. That would be helpful. Anyway, looking at the rewards here, Jenny will now gain a clue token. So she now has a reroll and even more fuel for her trust fund ability. We get a spell, which we get Purifying Flames. After any investigator rolls dice, discard to defeat 1 monster. If it has a terror requirement, you may defeat one additional monster with a terror requirement. So that could be handy if the board starts to get out of control. And we get to regain 2 sanity. So over the course of that first round, the 2 sanity that Jenny's lost will go right back over to her. Oop. So there are the 2 sanity, and Jenny is right back to full strength. She also at last gets the gate trophy. Or not the gate trophy, just the trophy. So that's a trophy value of 1 for Jenny. We'll send her back to Expedition Camp. I'll bring the dice tower out of shot so we can replace the adventure. And because it was in that second row of adventures, this new adventure will be going in face down. So we have another Downtown Anchorage adventure where we may spend 2 trophies to gain a common item. Then looking at Jenny in the clock phase, we'll start that off by we're not going to do anything from the Expedition Camp because we only have 1 trophy, which will bring the clock in as well. So during the clock phase, you'll actually move the clock forward 3 hours to 3 o'clock. Then I'll flip Jenny's investigator card over, and now we'll be ready for Lily's turn, so we'll move back up top to look at what we've got. Looking at the board right now, there's nothing too terribly dangerous out there. The only dangerous adventure right now, well, I take that back. We do have a pretty bad at midnight effect. So, because at midnight with Arrival, we would advance the clock. But I need to be careful with that, because if we advance the clock twice, we're getting to midnight already. So we do need to be very heads up about that. But I think it's worth the risk right now, so I'm going to bring Lily down to Arrival. I don't want to speed through the adventures too much, because I don't want to get into stage 2 and I'm not ready for it at all. So with that, let's bring the dice tower in shot and we'll zoom down to Lily. I'm taking a bit of a risk here because I know this is potentially going to advance the clock twice and get us right to a midnight already. So I think to mitigate the risk, actually I was going to toss the Ruby of Relay right away, but this is a 3-dice adventure, so in theory I shouldn't need it. But if I think I need it, I can toss it later. So let's go ahead and see what we're doing here. Remember, on this adventure, it's an ordered task, so we need 2 separate instances of 2 research to start with. Which we get 2 3s. Once again, that will work. And then we need another instance of 3 research to clear this. So let's see what we can get here. There's a 2, so if you fail a task, this is the first time we've failed this game. So the way it works is if you fail an adventure, if you fail a task, you discard a die, and then you have the option to focus 1. Additionally, if an investigator is stuck on an adventure, which they'll get if they fail, you can focus on them as well. But in this case, since Lily's alone, I'm going to focus the 2 on her. That way I only need to roll 1 and 2 more dice. You can also use multiple dice. I mentioned this earlier, where you can use over an amount called for. You can also use multiple to get to the same result. That's a little more inefficient, but it is an option as well. 2 and 2 makes 4, which we needed 3 to clear that, so Lily does clear it. Which means we'll bring this over to Lily as a trophy value of 3. Then we'll bring Lily up to Expedition Camp. I'll shortcut a little bit, but looking at Expedition Camp, she's not going to do anything right now. But we do put the Into the Wild adventure into play. So, let's look at the revealed side of this. Okay, this might be even worse. So it's a trophy value of 5. I forgot to go through the flavor text of Arrival. Let me do that real quick. We arrived in Anchorage 2 weeks after Dr. Lott's letter had reached us. I urged that we depart quickly, but others insisted that we stay and gather our bearings first. Time will tell which of us was right. I'm beginning to think doing this this early was a bad idea, but into the wild. Grimly we ventured forth, following the path that Dr. Lott had set out upon some weeks ago. We hoped we would find her in time. At midnight, a monster appears. So in order to task, we need a lore, then 3 research, then a peril. If we succeed, we progress to stage 2. If we fail, we advance the clock, spawn a monster, and lose 2 supplies. And at midnight, a monster appears. Actually, I don't mind the monster appearing too much, because we can let the board kind of start stacking up slightly with Purifying Flames on Jenny. But anyway, that will bring us into Lily's clock phase, so we'll advance the clock from 3 to 6 o'clock. Lily's turn is over. We'll move back up top to see what Monty's doing. Looking at our current board right now, I'm still I've got a few adventures here I'm very tempted by. An early Elder Sign would be very welcome right now. There's nothing I can do right now about Into the Wild. I'm not ready for monsters to start appearing like crazy. We got a storm marker over here that we're going to have to deal with at some point. Whiteout could be a problem. But I think where we're going to send Monty, actually, what I want him to find are unique items if I can help it, because we can rip through that and get some pretty powerful stuff. So I think what we're going to do is we're actually going to send him up. I'm going to send him to Hunter of Men, actually. I'm going to take a little bit of a risk here. So I do need to be aware of the terror effect on there in case we fail. So before we drop down, we'll go into the start of the resolution phase. Actually, we'll zoom in and then we'll start the resolution phase. Alright, so before we go any further, let's take a look at the flavor text on Hunter of Men. The first shot struck the ground at my feet, and then the hunt was on. I suspected that he had missed me intentionally, so he could keep me alive only so long as hunting me entertained him. Once again, we have to be aware of the terror effect on there. Lose 2 stamina unless one investigator discards 1 clue. So fortunately, we do have clues if we need them, but Monty's also our highest stamina investigator. He maxes at 7, but he's at 6 right now. We also on this adventure have the ordered tasks to worry about, so we need a terror and a lore first, or peril and a lore first. Terror is what we don't want to see, especially if we can't clear it. That is a lot of research, so I'll toss a 1 and focus the peril, and then we'll roll again. I can add the Ancient Tome if I think I need it for a reroll. Actually, you know what? I've got a better idea, because I just remembered something. The result was all a mess of research. I don't want to use it this early, but I think I kind of have to. So I'll actually use the Blue Watcher of the Pyramid, which will let me change one of these dice to a lore result. So funnily enough, the one that I discarded, I'll change that to a lore, and then we'll go ahead and clear that. So now we need a peril and a terror. Okay, I will discard this one, and now we'll focus the peril again, which means now we need to find a terror in 2, potentially 3 dice if I decide to use the Ancient Tome here, which I might. To my relief, I will not need it, so we'll use the peril and the terror to clear that. Monty will get a trophy value of 2, and he'll get 3 common items. So let's go ahead, we'll get the dice tower out of shot. And then we'll take a look at the 3 common items Monty gets. Now, we have to draw unique items to be able to use his special ability, so we won't get an additional one of these, but 3 common items is still very good. So our first common item is an old journal to give us another way to get the yellow dye. Second up, Lantern, another plus yellow dye. You can only use one of those per turn. And Bullwhip for a third yellow plus yellow dye. So yeah, Monty's probably going to be using yellow dice for quite a while. But anyway, he's cleared that. Looking at Expedition Camp, he's not going to do anything up there. So I'll go ahead and flip that to the other side. That's a trophy value of 2 for Monty. And then we are going to need a fresh adventure for him. So because we're adding it to the top row of adventures, we get to add it face up. So Monty gets to add Printed Collection. On entry, each investigator may spend 2 trophies to gain 1 unique item. Now that's actually quite tempting as well. So we need an instance of 3 research, then either a lore or a terror. Then we need 2 research and a lore. If we succeed, we either get a unique item or a skill, or an elder sign. But if we fail, we either put a doom on Ithaqua's doom track or become cursed. That's another way to get an early elder sign. So that's actually very tempting as well. But we go into the clock phase. Monty will advance the clock to 9 o'clock. And then we'll move back up top to see what Diana's doing. We've got a lot of good adventures on the board right now, but Diana's actually going to use her Find Gate. So we discard this to draw 1 Otherworld card and place it below the 6 adventure cards. So let's see what Otherworld adventure we draw for our first one. Diana gives us Ancient Sarnath. On entry, lose 1 sanity or 1 stamina. First we need 4 research and a terror, then lose a sanity. Then we need 3 research, a terror, and a lore. If we succeed, we get a clue, a unique item, and 2 elder signs. If we fail, we lose 2 and 2. That's a trophy value of 3. That actually might be a good one for either Monty or Jenny to take a shot at. But I'm getting ahead of myself here. Because looking at the board right now, Diana doesn't really have much for items. So I think we're going to bring her down. I think I'm going to bring her down to downtown Anchorage and get this storm marker off the board. So we'll move her down to that. We'll have our first storm marker of the game. So we lose a supply. That I can probably deal with. But anyway, I got to double check, do these go back in the bag or do I create a discard pile for them? Storm markers. Storm effects. That's not. It's returned randomly to the pile, so we're going to put it. You're supposed to make a pile, but I just find it easier to make a bag, so I'll go ahead and add it back to the storm marker bag. I'll mix it up. Okay, and then our adventure that Diana steps into. Refuge of Faith. Entry, add 1 Doom token to the Doom track, and each investigator regains 1 sanity. Oh joy. So that gives us a Doom token up already, which is not what I wanted to see, although to regain 1 sanity, I really don't mind that too much. I'd probably be a lot warmer to that if I didn't see what our first icon on Ithaqua's Doom track was. So there's our Doom token going up on Ithaqua. First Doom, but it also covers up a storm marker icon, so we have to add 3 storm markers to adventures, which means I'm just going to go, for the time being, right along the top row. So I'll put 1 on each of these. There are 3 storm markers. We'll put 1 each on the top row of adventures. So Whiteout, Private Collection, and Last Breath. But in return, each investigator will regain a sanity to bring everybody. Well, Jenny's already at full sanity, as is Monty, because we've been protecting his sanity like crazy. But Lily and Diana will also go back up to full sanity. On that note, we'll move down to Diana so she can resolve this adventure. We'll take a quick look at the flavor text here. When darkness fell over the city, people flocked to the church to find some measure of comfort within those sacred walls. We need 2 research and a terror, then a lore. And we do have a clue for a reroll, but I'm hoping we won't need it. And I'll feel a lot better if I'm able to clear that top task in the first roll. Then on that, as we look at it, if we succeed, we either gain 2 spells or become blessed. If we fail, we either advance the clock and lose a supply, or lose a supply and add storm markers to adventures, which will be another. I always get these numbers confused. It's 3 on the. I think it's 3 on the Doom track. 4 is a penalty. 3 is a penalty as well. So that actually makes life very easy because it's nice and consistent. But anyway, let's take it away, Diana. Alright, there's the 2 and the terror, so I feel a lot better about our chances now. Which means I can do that. And now we just need a little lore. And we didn't need. I don't think we'll need the clue. Nice and easy. So Diana clears the adventure, which gives her a trophy value of 1. So now which reward do I want? Do I want to give her 2 spells, or do I want to get her blessed? I don't think she's got really enough firepower to make being blessed worthwhile right now, so I'm going to give her 2 spells. So the first spell she gets, Dark Pact. Discard after you roll dice to change any number of results to results of your choice. At the end of the resolution phase, add 2 Doom tokens to the Doom track. Something we can use if we really need a die to succeed, but we have to be very careful with it because every other Doom token on Ithaqua's track will be adding storm markers to adventures, so we need to be very careful with that. And summon Shantak, which lets us secure a die. So right, and then with a trophy value of 1, Diana's not doing much at camp either. Then we put a new adventure down from stage 1. So we have the Northern Road. At midnight, we either add a storm marker to this adventure or lose a supply. Unfortunately, however, as we go into Diana's clock phase, we see that she is in fact advancing us to midnight, which is also going to send us back up top for the Mythos phase. Okay, so at midnight, we look at the track first. If investigators have 0 supplies, each investigator loses a stamina. We still have 14 supplies left, so we're good there. At midnight, we either add a storm marker to this adventure or lose a supply. I think we're going to actually lose a supply. Yeah, we're going to lose a supply on that for now. Then into the wild, at midnight, a monster appears. So you may have noticed on some of the adventures, or you may know this if you played Elder Sign, but sometimes there are markers where we have to put monsters first. In this case, we don't happen to have any of those. So we can put this monster anywhere we want. But let's see what we get first. Ugh. Looks like we actually have a task here. Lose 2 peril and lose a sanity. To give us Wave of Destruction. You may fulfill this mission to return all monsters from all adventures to the Monster Cup, but it's going to cost us 5 trophies to fulfill that mission. So where do I want to put this? I think I'm going to put it on... Where do I want it? I'm going to put it on... I don't want to put it on Last Breath because I'm probably going there next. let's put it on downtown Anchorage, actually. Because I'm expecting that'll be a fairly easy adventure, given that it's a green adventure. So with that, I think we also are going to have a Mythos card, which means we'll get into, grab that next. So, our next Mythos card. A failed expedition. We either loot the frozen dead or lay them to rest. So if we loot the frozen dead, each investigator loses sanity and gains a common item or a supply. Or we lay them to rest. Advance the clock. Each investigator fully regains their sanity. So looking at our current sanity situation right now, I think we're at pretty high sanity and we're going to need all the help we can get. So I think we're going to loot the frozen dead, which means everybody's going to lose a sanity. And we either gain a common item or a supply. Well, Monty, I can tell you, is all set on common items, so he's going to gain a supply. Diana's going to grab a common item, as will both Lily and Jenny. More items is never a bad thing, especially for Jenny with her trust fund. And depending on what we get, if we get something absolutely ludicrous with Jenny, I can use that to potentially fuel her trust fund ability. So Monty gained a supply, which means we need common items here. We need one for Jenny, one for Lily, and one for Diana. So Jenny's up first, we find. A suitcase of cash. Card is a trophy with a value of 3, so that gives her 4 trophies. That's probably not going to be something I'm going to want to toss. Lily finds an axe to give her the yellow die. And then Diana finds research materials. After rolling, discard to change 1 die to its highest investigation result. Okay, that gives us some options there. But anyway, now we're back into another investigator phase. So we'll start off with Jenny. I'm all but being gifted 4 Elder Signs here. So let's see if we can collect that gift. Jenny will start off by bringing us down to Ancient Sarnath to see if she can... Actually, before we do that, let's go ahead and flip over all of our investigators. Then, as I was saying, we'll bring Jenny down here to Ancient Sarnath and see if we can take advantage of being gifted 4 Elder Signs. The Destroyers of Ib, brought to madness and ruin by their multitude of sins and millennia of decadence. On entry, Jenny will lose a sanity or a stamina. She will lose a sanity to go down to 4 and 4. Then she'll use the brass knuckles into her trust fund ability to get both the yellow and red dice. So the way these dice work is we'll take the 6 green plus the yellow. Plus the yellow, which works a little bit differently from the green die, in that it gives you 1, 2, 3, and 4 research, a lore, and a peril, so it doesn't have a terror on it. The red die is basically... The red die is a 2 research, a 3 research, another 4 research, a peril, a lore, and a wild card, so whatever you need it to be. Now this is a 6 dice adventure, so I've got a clue and a spell if I need to lock anything. Let's take it away. That is almost a good start, but I'd be a lot happier. Well, I'm actually going to spend the clue here for a reroll. So, what I'm going to keep the 4 and a lore. I'm going to keep a 4, a lore, and a 3, just so my options are a little bit more open on what I can complete. If I can, I'd rather clear this bottom one, but I won't say no to clearing that as well. Okay, actually, that's... No, that won't help me. Because I still didn't roll any terrors. Which means I'll toss that lore, and I'll focus this one. And then we roll again. Actually, I can lock a die as well. I gotta remember I've got the red sign of Should a Mel over there. Okay, we get... Ugh, this is actually pretty bad. So I am going to toss another one, but I'm going to focus this... I'm going to lock this terror to her red sign of Should a Mel. So that's considered used. We cannot have any more screw-ups here, Jenny. That's cocked, but I do see a 3 in there, so... That's a 3, a lore, and the terror from the red sign of Should a Mel, but that means the red sign has been used. So now I need this to be 4 and a terror, and I have a couple of ways I can get there. I actually have one more shot at this, so I'm going to toss the yellow die. I need the red die to be either a 4 or a wild, and the green to be a terror. And unfortunately, we can't take advantage of that there, which means Jenny loses 2 health and 2 sanity. So that brings her down to 2 on both, which is very bad, but I had to take a risk there. So 2 and 2. Which means Jenny's in a bad way, and she's actually stuck there. But I imagine we'll get to see how focusing with investigators works. So Jenny flips over. In her clock phase, she advances to 3 o'clock. And then we'll go see what Lily's doing. Alright, Lily we're going to bring to... Do I want to bring her down to Ancient Sarnath and try to clear that right now? That might actually be the best plan, I think. So I think that's what we're going to do. We're going to bring Lily down to Ancient Sarnath as well. Then we'll zoom back down there and take another shot at it. Lily will also lose a sanity down there. We have to be a lot more careful with Lily than we were with Jenny on the sanity front. She's going to use both the axe and the Ruby of Relay to get both dice. To get both red and yellow dice. And we've got a clue for a reroll if we need it, and we might. We definitely need the clue here, so I'm going to spend Lily's clue. We'll keep the 4 and a 3 here. Again, I want to keep my options open on what I can clear. Okay, so we'll use the 4... and the terror, and Lily will lose a... Oh, this was a bad idea. So she's actually going to use her special ability to convert a stamina into a sanity and lose that. So that brings her down to 3 and 3. I forgot... I didn't want to bring her down to 2 sanity and have her be devoured if she... and have her lose all her sanity to take a madness condition if she fails. So now we need... a terror, a peril... We need 3... a terror, and a lore. Yeah, we failed the first one, so we had to toss a die. And we also can focus on... We can focus on Jenny and Lily both here. I'll toss a skull, and I'll focus the 3 on Jenny and the terror on Lily. So now I have to roll a lore and 2 dice. It took me a little more than I wanted it to, but we do get to take advantage of one of our gifts here of 2 Elder Signs. So Lily gets the clue back that she spent. She gets a new unique item, which means Lily gets Dragon's Eye. Before moving, discard to discard 1 adventure card along with all monsters on it, replacing it with a new adventure card. This card cannot affect Otherworld cards. So if we get something that's way out of control, like if we have something that's out of control with storm markers and a really dangerous monster on it, we can use that Dragon's Eye to get it clear, to get rid of it. So that will also gives us our first 2 Elder Signs. And remember, we need 15 of them against Ithaqua to win the game, but we're trying to take advantage of what's basically a gift right now. So we've got 2 Elder Signs on Ithaqua to 1 Doom. And if you remember when he awakens, we need to have at least 8 Elder Signs to even have a chance to fight him. So Ancient Sarnath will move over to Lily as a trophy value of 3, which brings her up to 6. Then looking at the expedition camp, I forgot to move the token here over to day 2. At 6, we can clear up to 3 storm markers from adventures, and storm markers right now aren't too out of control, so I think we're going to sit tight on that for the time being. But that brings us to the clock phase, where Lily will advance to 6 o'clock, and now it will be Monty's turn. So let's move it back up top and see what he's doing. We're going to bring Monty up to Private Collection. Again, I'm trying to take advantage of this gift of Elder Signs that we've got this turn. So we'll bring Monty down there. Then we'll move down, and we'll see if we can resolve that. One of the founders of Anchorage invited us to her home, and we were as amazed at the breadth of her collection as we were at her knowledge. On entry, each investigator may spend 2 trophies to gain 1 unique item. Looking at our current trophy count, we have Jenny at 4, Lily at 6, Monty's at 2, and Diana's at 1. So Diana can't spend trophies to gain a unique item. Monty definitely will, because he gets 2 unique items. If you remember his special ability, Jenny won't and Lily won't. So he'll spend his 2 trophies, and then for 2 unique items, Monty will gain. First up, he will find Sword of Glory, oh my, plus both red and yellow dice. That will be something we'll need to keep very much in reserve. When we get some of the tougher adventures in Stage 2, we'll probably need that. And Stygian Eye. After any investigator rolls dice, discard this card and lose 2 sanity to change a die to a result of your choice. We're trying to be very protective of his sanity in this game, so that's probably not something I'm going to want to use. But on this adventure, we need either 3 research and either a lore or a terror, and 2 research and a lore. I've got items I can toss to get yellow dice for days, so I shouldn't have too much of a problem clearing this adventure, but I don't want to say that because then the Mythos will likely say, hold my beer. But let's find out and see what happens here. That looks like a 3 and a lore to me. Actually, we'll take the 2 and the lore. That'll give me more ways I can clear the top task. Fortunately, this is not an ordered task. Oh, I forgot to do the storm marker. So the storm marker we have here, as long as this doesn't impact anything, lose a health. So that actually doesn't impact anything. So he will lose a health and go down to 5. And then the original roll would have happened. He got the first clear. Now let's see if we can get the Now let's see if we can get that other task out of the way. Three and lore for days. So yeah. So that's clear. Now the unique item and a skill is tempting because for Monty that unique item turns into 2 unique items. But I was trying to take advantage of a gift of Elder Signs this turn. So we are going to take the Elder Sign to go up to 3. Then that'll move over to Monty to be a replacement trophy value of 2. And now we need a fresh adventure there. I forgot to flip Lily's mini card over. So because this is coming into the top row, this will go in face up. So we'll find Sabotage. On a terror, lose 1 supply and each investigator loses a stamina. You need 2 research and a peril, then a peril and lose 1 sanity. If you succeed, you gain either a clue or a common item, and retreat doomed by 1. If you fail, you either lose 2 supplies or a health and a common item. So that's our replacement adventure there. Anyway, that brings us into the clock phase for Monty's turn. So he will advance to 9 o'clock, and then we'll move back up top to see where Diana's going. Our last free Elder Sign that we know about right now is over on Last Breath. So that's where Diana's going to go, so we can see if we can grab it. We watched as the shaman collected the spirit of her husband, sealing it away. Otherwise, she said, Ithaqua would hunt and devour it. On entry, each investigator may spend 2 trophies to gain 1 spell or 1 clue. Diana still is short, but here's where Jenny's a little more interested, and Lily is a little more interested. Monty is not going to spend to get a spell or a clue. So I think it'll be clues all around. So we'll discard that. So Jenny and Lily spent trophies, which means it'll be clues for both of them. All right, now coming back here. So Diana needs 4 research, 2 terror, and lose 1 sanity. I do have a clue for reroll. I've got a spell I can use to secure a die, and research materials I can use to change a die to its highest investigation result. Oh, before we go any further, we have a storm marker to deal with. Diana loses a health, bringing her down to 4. That's not the worst thing that could have happened. Believe me, there's a lot worse that could happen in there. But let's see what we can do with this last breath. We had 1 come out. Not that I like the result right now. I'll toss the clue to re-roll that. I'll keep a 3. Because as long as I get the 2 terror, I can change a die to a highest investigation result and clear that. Which I get exactly no terror. That's unfortunate, so I'll toss a peril. Then I'll focus the 3 I kept. I have 1 more miss on this. Unless I'm going to use a Dark Pact, which it seems really stupid to use a Dark Pact this early. I might have to bite the bullet, though. So I'll toss a peril, and then I'll focus the terror on... Or that's a lore, and I'll focus the terror on Summon Shantak. Unfortunately, I might need the Dark Pact here. I don't really want to use it this early, though. But I hate using a Dark Pact to change 1 die, but I think I have to. So, or do I just fail that? Put a Doom and lose a Sanity. I think we'll just eat the fail on that one, and then we'll try to get Diana some help next turn. So we'll put a Doom token up, which fortunately this is not covering up a Storm Marker track. So we'll put a Doom token on Ithaqua, and then she'll lose a Sanity, bringing her down to 2. Which is a little bit of a dangerous total to be at, especially since we have seen adventures that cause you to lose 2 Sanity in one shot. So that's potentially a risky play there, but we do have a terror saved if we need it. So with that, we'll move into the clock phase. We'll advance to midnight, and then we'll move back up top for the Mythos phase. Before I forget, I'll go ahead and flip over all of our Investigator mini cards. Come on. Of course, I have no nails to do it with. At midnight, this will move forward. We'll add 2 Storm Markers to Adventures. Where's my Storm Marker bag? Here it is. This time we'll line along the... We'll put the first 2 up here. Right, there are 2 Storm Markers. We'll put 1 on the Northern Road and 1 on downtown Anchorage. Then we have any other midnight effect. Yes, we got another monster out. We find what looks like a wolf pack with a 1 research, a peril, and a midnight effect. So let's see what the midnight is. At midnight, a monster appears. Oh boy, we're going to have 2 monsters coming out. I'm going to have to fix that, and pronto. So I'll actually put that on top of Last Breath because I'm planning to send somebody to give Diana a hand this round. But we also need a Mythos card. Okay. Treacherous Path. We either traverse the path or find another way. If we traverse the path, each investigator rolls a green die. Each investigator that rolls a terror loses 2 stamina, then lose 1 supply for each investigator, or we find another way, advance the clock, and lose 2 supplies. Oh boy, I don't particularly want to do either one of these, but I think, unfortunately, we eat the advance the clock and lose 2 supplies. I'd rather lose 2 supplies than lose 4 and risk losing 8 stamina. Because right now we're not in a terrible situation, but we're definitely not in a great spot either. So we're actually at 3 o'clock now, and we lose 2 supplies, so we go down to 12. Anyway, that was a pretty rough Mythos phase. Now we're into another Investigator round. So we'll start off with Jenny. Unfortunately, we're only going to get 3 Investigator turns in before this midnight. So let's take a look and see where we're sending Jenny. Looking at our current situation right now, I think getting that monster off the board is probably our biggest priority. So, I think we're going to send Jenny down to Last Breath to help Diana out. Going into Stage 2, not hunting Elder Signs is an opportunity that I really can't resist here. So, we're going to toss Purifying Flames into Jenny's Trust Fund because it will work with spells. Which means we get the green dice, less the one we've got locked on Summon Shantak, and along with the yellow and red dice. So let's give Diana a little bit of help and get her out of here, plus get us another Elder Sign. Let's see what our rolls are there. So, wow. So actually we get the 3 and 4. Oh, that was a 1. So we get the 3 and 4 there. We get a terror here. Actually, yeah, we need 4 terror. We'll use the terror that Diana had locked from Summon Shantak, so that's going to be discarded. And then Jenny will lose a sanity to bring her down to 1. This is actually going to be very dangerous because we might end up taking our first phobia of the game. And now we've got clues to reroll. So now we need a 1, and we need 1 research and a peril. And we've got clues to reroll to get it if we don't get there. Alright, so I'll discard the lore and I'll focus the 1 on Diana. This gives me 2 good dice that I can roll. It's giving me 2 hits essentially on these 2 dice. Actually, before I do that, I forgot. I didn't remember that I had a clue, so we'll spend the clue to reroll first. I'll do this in a not dumb way. Three and a lore. That's unfortunate. So I'll toss a lore, and I'll focus the 3 on Diana. Same rationale as before. I've got 2 hits that I can roll here. Toss the lore. And now I think this... I got 2 hits on the skull, so I got a... on the red die, so I've got a 1 in 3 chance to get it. What is the result back there? That is a 4, so blast it all. Which means Jenny will have to lose a sanity, but we are actually playing with grave consequences as well. So she will go up to maximum sanity again, but she will take our first phobia of the game, which is very unfortunate. I also will put another Doom token up on Ithaqua, which will be another 3 storm markers on adventures. So there's a Doom token on... So Doom token is up on Ithaqua. We'll max out Jenny's sanity. 4, 5, 6. This is driving me nuts now. We'll put storm markers out, and then we'll get Jenny her first phobia of the game. So we'll go to the wetlands, and then we'll go back up top. Actually, the sabotage, and... yeah, we'll go to the first... We'll go to the wetlands, then we'll loop back to whiteout and sabotage. Alright, there are 3 storm markers. We'll put those on adventures. 1, 2, 3. And then we'll get our first phobia of the game. I have a feeling I am going to have to take that Dark Pact. I wanted to use that later, but... and then here's Jenny's first phobia. I think once you get her 4th, she gets devoured. So we have Anaclophobia. You fear crowds. This room is too full of people, full of shadows, full of danger. Each time you move to an adventure with 1 or more other investigators, lose 1 sanity. That is rather unfortunate. And remember, we're on a short round here as well. So Jenny will flip over. Clock phase will advance, if I can ever get it here, to 6 o'clock. And then it's Lily's. It'll be Lily's turn. So let's move back up top and see what Lily's doing. Before I go into Lily's next turn, I did forget to do the midnight on the Northern Road. Either add a storm marker to this adventure or lose a supply. So I will just lose another supply. The reason I mentioned that is because Lily's actually going to move down here so I can stop losing supplies. Anyway, before we flip this over, we'll resolve the storm marker on here. Lily loses a common item. Fortunately, she doesn't have a common item to lose. So we'll give the storm markers a quick mix-up. Then we'll flip this adventure over to see what Lily is going to be dealing with. Lily will be dealing with The Road to Elsewhere. I took a wrong turn and found myself on a strange and otherworldly path which led me to a land of summer and dreams I hoped to never leave. It's an ordered adventure. We need one research, but there is a priority monster spot there. Then 2 research, then 2 lore. If we succeed, we get an otherworld adventure. We don't advance the clock during our clock phase, and we get a clue. But if we fail, we either lose a sanity and advance the clock, or a supply and advance the clock. So let's move down and see what Lily can do with that adventure. All right, I'm hopefully not going to need to spend clues until I get deeper down on the adventure order. Theoretically, I should be able to get down there pretty quickly. Then I've got clues once I get there. All right, 1 research will clear that nicely. Next, we need 2 research. And like I said, I can use multiple dice. It ultimately is going to cost me 2 dice. And now I need 2 lore. And here's where I may start doing a little bit of mitigation on the dice. I don't want to toss the red die if I can help it. I'll use the clues first. I'll use a clue. I'll keep one of those lore. We'll use the other clue. I probably am going to use that. Burner carving. Say that 5 times fast. Never mind. I don't need it. It took me a little bit, but I roll it naturally. So anyway, that's clear, which means Lily gets another trophy value of 2. We also get one of the clues back. This turn we don't advance the clock, so we actually recover from that. And we get the clue back. We don't advance the clock this round, and then we get an otherworld adventure. So I'll move Lily back up to Expedition Camp. First, we'll put the replacement adventure out. Since it's in the second row, this will be a face-down adventure, so we have to deal with the effect on the back. And we still have the Northern Road, so we still are adding 1 storm marker to this adventure, or we lose the supply at midnight. But we also get an otherworld adventure. So, thanks to Lily's success, she puts out City of the Great Race, trophy value of 2. I'll go through the flavor text when we actually go to it. 3 research, but a priority monster spot. 1 of each bad symbol. If we pass, we get an Elder Sign and 3 unique items. But if we fail, we lose a sanity and 2 health. So that seems like another gift of an Elder Sign to me, but I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. Clock phase, we actually don't advance the clock because of that reward. So it stays at 6 o'clock, and that moves us over to Monty. So let's move back up top and take a look at the board. An Elder Sign and 4 unique items is probably too good an opportunity to pass up right now. And I think he can easily clear it. So we'll bring Monty down to the City of the Great Race. Now we'll zoom in on Monty and see what he can do about clearing that adventure. Before we jump into this adventure, we're going to do 2 things to help me set up a little bit. So first, I'm going to discard the lantern to give me the yellow die into this adventure. And then to set up for her turn, I'm going to discard Monty's holy water to bless Diana. So I'm probably going to end up using that Dark Pact as much as I don't want to on Last Breath. But if I can do it there, if I can clear that adventure without having to use the Dark Pact, I will take that. Plus Lily getting that clear, which let her not advance the clock in her clock phase, helped us out. So now we actually have a normal full round before we go into the mythos phase. Let's see what Monty does here. Looks like a very rubbish roll there, but we can clear the 4. We can use the 4 there. And now we need one of each bad symbol. We need a terror, a lore, and a peril. And the Stygian Eye is basically unavailable to me because that'll stop Monty's adventure cold. We are getting research for days, so I'll toss a 1 and I'll focus the peril. So now I need a lore and a terror. Unfortunately, I do see the terror in there, but the lore is not there. It's got to be here or it's not happening. At least not this turn. Nope. Alright, so Monty loses 1 sanity and 2 health. To go down to 1 sanity and 3 health. That is very unfortunate. Which means we're going to have to give him a little bit of help next round. The question is who? I can't send Jenny there because she's got her fear of crowds now. But I'll have to think about that later. So Monty's turn ends with it being... So his clock phase brings us to 9 o'clock. And that will be Diana's turn. So we'll bring her up. We'll go back up to Last Breath where Diana's going to try to clear that adventure again. Alright, so this will be our first look at the white die in this adventure. So I've got my 6 green in there, plus the white die, which basically functions as another green die. So let's bring the dice tower into shot. The Dark Pact is the nuclear option here, and unfortunately I think I probably will need it. So let's find out. Let's see, that is... I'll take the 1... Oh boy. I'll take the 1 and the peril because I at least want to be able to clear the monster out. And I think this is probably where the Dark Pact is going to come into play. This will probably be a good time to use it because we won't be adding 2... We'll be adding 2 Doom tokens, but we won't be putting more storm markers out. That lets me discard after you roll dice to change any number of results to results of your choice. So if one of those would have been a terror, I would have been golden. But alas, I will toss the skull, and I'm not going to bother focusing because unless I roll this naturally right now, actually we'll focus it was a 2 and a 3 that I took. So I'll focus the 3 on Diana and the 2 on Jenny. And I'm probably going to have to use Dark Pact to make both of these terrors. Yep, I am going to have to use her Dark Pact, unfortunately, to change both of those to terrors. Which will then clear the adventure, which means Diana gets this as a trophy value of 1. Then she gets Last Breath as a trophy value of 2. So that brings her up to 4 trophies. Then the reward on there, that also lets Diana keep her blessing. We'll get our 4th Elder Sign, and we'll get her a spell. So there's our 4th Elder Sign, and Diana will get a spell in a second.
Yeah,
Diana is face up. We get Unnatural Blizzard. Entry, either add 3 storm markers to adventures or advance the clock. You need 1 research and a peril, then 4 research. If you succeed, you get a common item and a supply. If you fail, you either lose a supply and advance the clock again, or lose a supply and add storm markers to adventures. So anyway, that will do it for Diana's resolution phase. The clock phase brings us to midnight, and then we'll move back up top for the Mythos phase. At the end of Diana's resolution phase, because we used Dark Pact, we put 2 Doom tokens up on Ithaqua's Doom track, which brings us up to 5. We need to pick up the pace on getting those Elder Signs. Anyway, now we have our Midnights. So that advances to day 4, which means we add, how many is that? 3 storm markers to adventures. So we'll put those on Northern Road, Unnatural Blizzard, and we'll double up Sabotage, I guess. Then coming through Adventures, we add a storm marker here or lose a supply. I think we'll add another storm adventure, or another storm marker. There's another storm marker there. And then at midnight on Into the Wild, a monster appears, which we can put anywhere except... Oh no, we do have a priority place for it for Monty. We might need to leave him there and use the Sword of Glory to clear it.
You're going to be bringing it here for him to drink anyway. We'll wind up there.
Alright, we find, I think that's a Stormcrow. 2 research, a lore, and a midnight. Sure enough, that is a Stormcrow. At midnight, we add 4 storm markers to adventures. This thing needs to bite it, and fast. So I think this is probably going to be an adventure Monty's going to throw the Sword of Glory at. But anyway, now we get into our Mythos card. We find... Stalked by creatures, we either quicken the pace. All adventures gain the following entry effect today. In addition to any other entry effects, entry, a monster appears, or we lay a trap. Advance the clock twice, then return up to 2 monsters in play to the Monster Cup. Well, we need to get that Stormcrow out of play, but at the cost of advancing the clock twice... I think we bite the bullet on that. I think we advance the clock twice, which puts us to 6 o'clock. But that gets us rid of both of these monsters. So those go back into the monster bag. I'll give that a shake. And now, unfortunately, we are at 6 o'clock. So that means we're going right into Jenny. And I don't see anything here that will that'll stop us from advancing the clock, but... Let's transition into a new investigator round, and we'll start with Jenny. So we are definitely in a bad way here. Jenny, the only adventure I can't send her to without risking another sanity is the City of the Great Race. So I think what we're going to have to do with Jenny is... And we need to stop the clock from advancing if we can. This is going to be a very quick round. So I think we're going to bring her up to Whiteout and eat a bunch of storm markers. So this could be very bad. But let's move up to Whiteout and see what Jenny's doing. Before I get into this adventure, first we're going to have to deal with the entry markers. So first we have storm markers to deal with. First one up. Come on. A monster appears. Wonderful. So we can put this, we got to put this right back on Monty's place. So we find, lose a health and lock a green die. This is not what I wanted to see right here. It's an off-K with a trophy value of 1. The only bright spot is it might make Monty's adventure a little bit easier. But our other storm marker that we find is nothing happens, so that's kind of fortunate. Unfortunately, I don't have anything to toss to fuel Jenny's trust fund, and I just threw out my margin of error. Actually, I have 1 die left that I can have to re-roll. Fortunately, this is not an ordered task. And on the entry, I think we will eat a loss of another 3 supplies. So that'll bring us down to 8 on the supply track. But Jenny has got no margin for error on this one. This is going to be a very hard adventure to clear. Okay, we do get a lore and a terror on here. Unfortunately, the peril is going to cost our health, assuming we can roll it again. Which we get the 2. Now we've got 2 shots to get that peril. Which we don't get. Toss a terror. And it's hidden back there, but that's a 3, so we fail. Also, I should have added storm markers to it. Oh no, we lost 3 supplies. Never mind. So we do fail that, which means we'll lose another supply, go down to 7, and we add 3 storm markers to adventures again. So there are our 3 storm markers, which means we'll go right back on whiteout, unnatural blizzard, and we'll put 1 on the wetlands. That was not something we wanted to see. That Nofke really screwed us up. But the clock brings us up to 9 o'clock. And I think we need to send Jenny some help. But, 9 o'clock will bring us over to Lily. As much as I would love to be able to take advantage of Monty's special ability to get 4 unique items, I can't be picky with that right now. I've got to bring Lily down here to get that green die freed. So let's move down to the City of the Great Race, where Lily is going to be asking Monty, most likely, for some help. Lily has a clue I'm most likely going to have to use into this. I'm probably also going to need this burner carving, but let's see what happens here. So the first roll, unless I get 1 of each bad symbol, is basically a freebie, because I can lose 1 health and get that Nofke off of there, and get the green die back at the end of the resolution phase. Or another option is I just spend the clue to reroll and try to get the terror. So I'll keep the skull and the peril. Or the peril and the lore, I should say. We don't find the terror, so I will discard the 1, focus the lore on Lily and the peril on Monty. So now let's see what we can do with this. Okay, this is where we'll use the free, essentially the free reroll. So we'll spend a sanity, or not a sanity, a stamina, go down to 2. We clear the Nofke, and we'll get that green die back at the end of this resolution phase. This is bad, though, And before I do that, I'm actually going to spend a sanity on Lily's special ability to bring her up to 3 stamina, because this is where that ability to balance your health and sanity back and forth is really going to come in handy. Because if we fail at that, if we were to fail at that with Lily at 2 stamina, she would be devoured right there. Whereas I can deal with a 1 sanity loss a lot more easily. So, we still have these 2 dice to roll into it. I'm still looking for a peril. We'll get that out of the way. I'm trying to figure out how I want to represent that. I'll do that, so I know I've done it. Discard a lore. This is not... Come on, guys. Come on, Lily. We need this. In fact, this is where I am going to use the burner carving to give me the red die. Right here. Toss a peril. And a lore. You've got to be kidding me, guys. So we're down 1 health, or 1 sanity and 2 health. So Lily is in a very bad way here. And she's very vulnerable right now, but she does get the Nafke as a monster trophy. Right. Unfortunately, that also brings us straight... Because we advanced the clock twice on our last Mythos card, that brings us back to midnight, and that already brings us back up top for another Mythos phase. Lily is in deep trouble in the Mythos phase, but I think our problems are about to get even worse. So, day 5, we add 4 storm markers to adventures. Three, 4. Okay, so we put 1 there. I think we can put adventure markers here as well. Here and here. We're going to start having 3 storm markers in play, which means the Dragon's Eye may become very tempting to use. At midnight, we still have supplies, so each investigator loses a stamina. Moving down, add a storm marker to this adventure or lose a supply. We'll add another storm marker there because I'm figuring there's a chance I'm going to clear it. And at midnight, a monster appears. Which once again has to go into the priority spot. Oh boy, what is this? That's a mummy. So I need 3 of either terror or peril. Trophy value of 2. The creature's very existence was a curse. It strode toward me, animated by pure hatred. Fantastic. Alright, so now we need a fresh Mythos card. Hungry Strangers. Refuse aid or give them aid. If we refuse aid, each investigator loses 1 sanity, add 1 doom token to the doom track, or if we give them aid, we lose 5 supplies. Ouch. The problem is we can't really afford to give them... We can't really afford either one. If we refuse aid, both Lily and Monty are taking phobia conditions. Jenny's the only one who would be okay. Diana would be in a very rough way as well. So I think we have to give them aid, but we need to find supplies and fast. 4, 5. All right, that will do it for the Mythos phase. And this is going to potentially go belly up pretty quick. But we're into a fresh day, And unfortunately, because of the way the previous Mythos card went, we're into Monty next. So I think Monty... We'll transition to Monty. The City of the Great Race went from easy to very challenging. But I think we're going to still have to risk it there. So Monty is going to stay put, and he's got some help from Lily, so let's move down to the City of the Great Race. Sword of Glory go bye-bye to help make with his adventure. So that now gives us a 2 dice margin for error, but we are looking for all symbols here, which is very bad. We had one fall out. Not that I'm very happy with the result I see there. Still not very happy with that, so I will discard the 1. I'll focus the skull on Lily. Unfortunately, right now, 2, 4, 5... Wait, I should have had the... Hold on. Something's not right. I discarded that. I should have had one more green die? Wait. A green die was locked. So it was from the Nafke on Lily's turn. Oh, I had one hidden back here. So actually, let me look at this. Let me look at these results again. So hold the phone, because we may actually be able to clear one of these tasks. Yeah, I think we can. So actually, we can clear this bottom one, which means we don't have to discard. So minor false alarm there. We do have a reroll. Alright, so now I'll toss out this yellow die because it's only got one good face for us. And I'll focus the terrors on both Monty and Lily. So now we have two rolls and 2 good dice. And 2 good faces on them. Which we missed there, so we'll toss that out. There we go. Alright, so Skull, Terror, and we clear that adventure. So we'll get all this out of here. Monty will get this mummy back with a trophy value of 2. Then he'll get the adventure with a trophy value of 2 as well. I'll move Monty and Lily up to Expedition Camp. But first, we get our 5th Elder Sign, and 4 unique items. I was hoping this would work out for Monty, but I couldn't be too picky. So 2, 3, 4. Alright, so first unique item up Monty gets. Healing Stone. Before rolling, discard to fully restore your sanity and stamina. That is very tempting right now. Second up, Lightning Gun. Discard anytime a monster appears to immediately discard that monster. Third item, Enchanted Blade to give him a plus red die. And Alien Statue for another plus red die. Anyway, that will do it for Monty finally. His clock phase will take us to 3 o'clock. I'll move this over to be part of his monster trophies. And then we'll move back up top to look at the board for Diana. All of our investigators are in pretty rough shape right now. So I think ultimately we're going to use Diana to clear some of these storm markers off the board. So I think we'll bring her down. We'll bring her down to the northern road because I want to stop adding a lot of storm. I want I know we're going to be adding enough storm markers, especially as we get down that bottom track. So, yeah. And I don't want to get to 4 storm markers, because that's when we start adding additional doom, if we didn't have enough coming out already. So let's bring Diana down to the northern road. Then we'll zoom in on her and get her set up. If Diana survives, we'll get to flip this adventure over and stop the at midnight, but she's got 3 storm markers to go through, which is also why I don't have the dice tower in shot yet. First storm marker. She loses an ally, but she doesn't have an ally to lose. Then lose a supply, which brings us down to 1. And now the track is potentially going to start becoming perilous as well. And lose another supply, so now that at midnight is going to start eating away our stamina. But we get to flip this one over, so we find Corrupted Trapper. As we traveled further north, we found that the residents of the area were just as foul and corrupted as the land that sustained them. On entry, add 1 Doom token to the Doom track unless you discard 1 monster trophy. We need 2 research and a lore, and then 3 research and lose a sanity, which Diana has 2 to lose. If we succeed, we get a common item and 2 supplies back. If we fail, either a monster appears or we lose 1 and 1. So Diana has a monster trophy to discard. I don't like putting it back in the bag, but I'd rather not put our 6th Doom up and put more storm markers out. So any way we can keep that from happening is going to be welcome. Now we can bring the dice tower in shot. And I've got some options here. So I am blessed. And I've got research materials in case I need to get to a lot of lore pretty quick. So we'll put in our 6 green dice plus our white blessed die. And let's have a go at this, Diana. Okay, I see 3 and a lore. So we'll take that. The way I've been... I'm not going to say anything here. I'll make the comment after the roll is over. The way I've been rolling research, I figured that was a pretty easy adventure to clear. So Diana will lose a sanity, go down to 1. But more importantly, we have cleared that adventure. So that will be a trophy value of 1 for Diana. We'll move her back up to camp. And then our replacement adventure being face down. There's another trip to the wetlands. Advance the clock unless you lose a supply. Speaking of supplies, as part of that reward, we did gain 2. So on the track, we're back up to 2 supplies, which means that track will not be a problem for us anymore. Then we'll move into the clock phase, which will bring us to 6 o'clock. And then that will be Jenny's turn. Jenny's going to stay put on whiteout. So first we have to deal with these storm markers. First up, we lose a spell, except Jenny doesn't have a spell to lose. And put a Doom up, which brings us up to 6 and puts more storm markers out. So we're going to be adding 6 storm markers to adventures. That is problematic. Now, fortunately here, I'm actually going to put 2 of these on the wetlands and 1 on whiteout. I won't have to resolve storm markers again, because Jenny's already done it. So there are 3 storm markers. Oop. I can see 1 in there, so I'll discard that. I'll put 2 on the wetlands and 1 on whiteout. Alright, now we can bring the dice tower into shot, and Jenny will try again to resolve this. Alright. Hopefully we can just get rid of the storm markers. Hopefully we can just clear the adventure and get rid of the storm markers. Wouldn't that make life wonderful? Well, Skull and lose a health is a little perilous, but it can't be helped. I'll probably have to get Jenny out of there on her next turn if I don't clear this. That looks like a 2 research. And now we need a terror and a lore. We'll toss one of these research dice and focus a lore. Toss another peril. And fail. So Jenny will add storm markers to adventures, another 3. Either way, we're stuck with adding storm markers to adventures. And I've got to get her out of there. I think I'm starting to think Alaska may be where Ithaqua takes his revenge. Salvages a win so he doesn't get completely shut out from Christmas in Arkham. Then we'll add those to adventures. Then the clock phase will bring us to 9 o'clock, and it will be Lily's turn. Lily is actually in a very bad way here. So I'm going to have to, unfortunately, I'm going to have to skip her movement phase to stay at the expedition camp. So I'll discard 2 trophies. I'll spend 2 trophies, I should say, to regain. I'll have her regain 2 stamina, and then I'll spend 1 of those on her special ability. So she ends up gaining 1 and 1. So that will bring Lily up to 2 and 2. Unfortunately, bringing her out of danger brings us into different danger because it's midnight again. So, with that, we will have to move back up top for the Mythos phase. We are starting to find ourselves in a world of trouble because we're advancing to day 6, which means we put 6 storm markers out on adventures. So I'll grab the storm marker bag. See, that's 1, 2, 3, 4. There are almost no storm markers left in that bag. 5, 6. So there are 6 storm markers. Let's go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Which means now we check for doom on, because of storm markers. Any adventure that has 4 storm markers on it, we add a doom to the doom track. We see that one adventure does have have 4 storm markers on it, so we do add a doom to the doom track. Then we resolve all at midnight, so that's clear. I think that's the only one that has anything to do. Okay, so with that, let's see what else is on the card over here. Resolve any the next time, except there's none of that. So we draw and resolve a new Mythos card. So let's see what we get. Hunger grows. We either ration the food, so each investigator loses 1 stamina and 1 sanity, or make the hard choice where 1 investigator is devoured, gain 4 supplies. Oh boy. Yeah, rationing the food means Jenny gets devoured anyway, and Monty and Diana both have to take both have to take phobias, or we lose. So we're losing one investigator either way. I think what we do here is, my initial thought is we just bite the bullet over here. I'm looking at the investigators off camera. I think right now we do let that puts another 3 storm markers, and we have 4 left in the bag, which means we're going to be putting 3 more adventures up to Doom Threshold, which means we'd have to clear some storm markers this turn, or else we'll be in terrible shape. Which well, I'm not going to lie, we're definitely in terrible shape anyway. But I think we let an investigator get devoured here. The only question is which one. So, which investigator do we get devoured? I think since we're heading into her turn, well, we did need a way to get Jenny out of there anyway, so I think one way we could do that is, I wonder if we just get Jenny devoured, and I'll have to think about this one. I'll be right back. As painful as this is going to be, and I think things are already going haywire anyway, we are going to make the hard choice and have Jenny get devoured. Because she has been rolling like absolute garbage this game. I was trying to think of a somewhat PG-13 word, but I think we're just going to play it safe there. So Jenny is going to get devoured. We will gain 4 supplies. 1, 2, 3, 4. Unfortunately, though, that will put another Doom up on the track, which will be our 8th Doom. And we get 3 of those 4 storm markers that we have left. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, whoop. Actually, we have 5 left. So there are 3 storm markers. So we'll go here, here, and here. Which means Jenny's devoured. That will go into the adventure discard pile. And then we'll have to go pick a new investigator, so I will be right back while I do that. Prior to setting out for Alaska, Jenny made a phone call to Velma's diner. She had been hoping to find her best friend, the same waitress who had served them when they were first planning the expedition out. Agnes knew when she got that call that there was a chance that something was going to go haywire there. So as soon as she got the call, Agnes was on the next plane out to Alaska. As she was staying at the hotel, Agnes got a phone call. It turned out to be not from Jenny, but from another close friend of hers, Diana Stanley. Something had gone wrong. They'd had to leave Jenny behind. Could you get out with us as fast as you could? Agnes was on the next sled out to meet them in the wilderness. So our replacement for Jenny Barnes is the waitress who served them in Arkham, Agnes Baker. She starts off with 6 sanity, 4 stamina, so like the others, she's a little bit hurting on the stamina front. Her special ability is Past Lives. When Agnes secures a die on one of her spells, she may change the result of that die to a result of her choice, and she starts with 3 spells. So first spell Agnes starts with, and here I'm going to see a lot of locks. Summon Guardian Spirit. Discard when any investigator fails an adventure. That investigator does not suffer any of that adventure card's penalties. Then We have a lure monster, which is a lock, thankfully. And Flesh Ward, which is another lock. So we get 2 lock spells, but we can only manipulate 2 dice. So anyway, now that we've got poor Jenny replaced, we're back into a fresh round, and we'll move over to the board to see what Monty's doing. By the way, before we do, we're using Agnes's mini card like the others from the card game, so that's her active side. That will be her inactive side. So we'll move her up to Expedition Camp, then we'll move back over to the board and survey the carnage with Monty. We are very much caught between a rock and a hard place right now, because if we don't, we have to clear some of these storm markers off the board. If the Mythos phase were to start right now, we would put 4 Doom on the board, we would put 4 more Doom on the track, and we'd end up losing the game. So I think what our focus needs to be on this round is on clearing some of these adventures. So we need to clear some of these storm markers. So I think we're going to have to bite the bullet at the risk to our investigators and send everybody down to a 4 storm marker adventure to try to clear some of these storm markers off. I'll bring Monty down to downtown Anchorage. I don't have the dice tower in shot yet, because there's a very real chance Monty could stop after flipping over some of these storm markers, because he is at 1 sanity right now. So let's start with these storm markers. We've got 4 of them. First up, we lose a supply, so that'll bring us down to 5. Then we lose the aforementioned sanity, so he'll actually go back up to 3 sanity. But we'll put another Doom on Ithaqua's Doom track, bringing us up to 9 Doom on Ithaqua. Out of 12, that's very bad, so that's another 3 storm markers on adventures, which I think, no, we have 4 left in here. We're putting 3 of them on adventures. So 1, 2, 3. Which means we'll go 1, 2, 3. That will effectively end his turn, but he will get a phobia card. 4 of these and you're devoured, but I have a hunch this game is not going to last too much longer. We'll find out, though. Alright, here's Monty's phobia. He is now... He's got Jenny's phobia from before. Inoculophobia. You fear crowds. This room is too full. Full of people. Full of shadows. Full of danger. Each time you move to an investigator with 1 or more other investigators, lose 1 sanity. So that's Monty's phobia. That will do it for Monty. We'll come into the clock phase. 3 o'clock. So now let's move over. Let's move back up top and look at the board for Diana. Alright, we're going to bring Diana over to the... Where are we going to bring her? I think we're going to bring her down to Sabotage. Even though this is probably a very bad idea. But we need to, like I said, we need to clear these storm markers out pronto. Unfortunately, we're probably going to be adding another Doom token to Ithaqua's track, which means at midnight we lose the game. So, but let's find out. Let's get down to Diana. Unfortunately, Diana is in very much the same peril as Monty is. 1 sanity gives her a phobia and puts up another Doom token. It also causes us, I think, to just lose the game on the spot, because no matter what Agnes and Lily do on their turns, we're still going to have at least 2 adventures with 4 storm markers on them. So we're very much in deep trouble. But let's find out how many of these storm markers Diana can go through. So she finds losing a sanity. That didn't take long at all. So Diana will go back up to... We'll put our 10th Doom token on Ithaqua. Diana will go back up to full sanity, so we'll get a 3 out there. And then she too will be taking a phobia card. Alright, so Diana's phobia is traumatophobia. You fear injury. The slightest wound could lead to my death. I must protect myself at any cost. Each time you lose 1 or more stamina, lose a sanity. Oh joy. Alright, so Diana goes straight to her clock phase at 6 o'clock. That will do it for Diana. Now we'll move over to Agnes. We have 1 chance to prolong the game here, but I very much need Lady Luck to be with Agnes on this roll. So our 1 chance to let this game go a little bit longer is if I bring Agnes over to Whiteout. Now, given that she is our fresh investigator coming in, I'll flip everybody else over. Given that she is a fresh investigator coming in, she should survive the storm markers. So hopefully there'll be nothing too catastrophic. But let's move down to Agnes and see what we can do. Surviving the storm markers should be the easy part for Agnes. But we need her to actually be able to get that reward down there, which will let us not advance the clock this turn. Anyway, Agnes's first storm marker up is she loses a unique item, but she doesn't have one to lose. Next up, lose a common item, which she also doesn't have to lose. Monster appears, and we can put this anywhere. Let's see what we draw, which will help me decide where I want to put it. Oh joy, we have a task which is going to make us lock a green die. One research and a lore.
Said, hey dudes, we talked it over and we really want to keep the day to ourselves.
Light of Reason, 5 trophies. You may fulfill this mission to gain 6 clues. I'm going to put that on top of Monty, but that also lacks the green die, which from this adventure is going to take away one of Agnes's margin for error. So, last storm markers, nothing happens. So that's very timely. I'll give that a quick mix-up off camera. On entry, unfortunately, we do add 3 storm markers to the adventures unless we lose 3 supplies. So, 1, 2, 3, that'll bring us down to 2 on the track. And now I need Agnes to be the hero here to pass this. And give us 2 more investigators who can go in and clear some storm markers off. Unfortunately, I think we're probably still doomed, because Lily is not in good shape either. Alright, I will take the only die I can clear with is 2 research. I do have spells though, so I do need to keep an eye on those. We find, I think we'll have to use one of them. Actually, we've got a skull there, so we'll take that and lose a health, so that'll bring Agnes down to 3 health. Then as long as we roll one of those symbols, either a terror or a lore, I can use one of Agnes's spells to clear that. Wait. Oh no, we did have a die locked, so never mind. I will discard the peril, and now I might have to use both spells just to clear this task and try to prolong the game a little bit. I do see a lore, so I'll take this over to her lore monster. Secure it and change it to a terror, because that's Agnes's special ability. So lure monster is discarded, and Agnes clears the adventure. So she gets 2 common items. First up is a knight to give her the plus a yellow die. And cult robes, which also gives her a plus yellow die. Then she gets a spell. She gets Third Eye. Discard after you roll to change any number of results to lore. Okay, so Agnes will go back to Expedition Camp. The most important part of the reward, though, and the one I was trying to get, is we don't advance the clock this turn. So this is a trophy value of 2. We'll put out a fresh adventure. This one will go face up. We'll put out Barnett's Trading Post. Entry: each investigator may spend 2 trophies to gain a common item. Need 2 research, and then 4. And I forgot to go through the flavor text on whiteout, because I've done it a couple times. The snow blew sideways, getting in my eyes and face until I could barely see. Then where were we? Oh yes, on the pass here, you either gain 2 supplies or a common item. If you fail, you lose a supply and either advance the clock or discard a common item. Fortunately, that's the end of Agnes's turn, so she's at Expedition Camp, which means she's actually pretty fresh, so I won't worry about that. But the most important part is her clock phase stays at 6 o'clock, and we'll move back up top for Lily. So here's what's going to happen here. Here's what's going to happen this turn for Lily. We're going to send her to a 4 storm marker adventure at the risk of not being able to get any of them off. Not being able to get her deep enough into a storm marker adventure before she puts another doom up on Ithaqua's track. Because if she puts one more doom up on Ithaqua's track, then we're not going to be able to clear another adventure. Well, we actually are still going to lose the game during the Mythos phase if that happens. Because we'll be putting 7 storm markers out, and then we check for doom for 4 in play. If we put a doom up, we only need to have 1 adventure with at least 4 storm markers in play. So I think to risk it, we're going to bring Lily to one of these wetlands adventures that has 4 storm markers on it already. Then we'll move down and we'll see what Lily does with those. Okay, 2 of these being lose stamina or sanity would be game ending, but they have to be both. So let's get started with these storm markers. First up, we lose a stamina, so we're already in trouble. Our second storm marker, discard an ally, which we don't have to discard. Well, we actually have another way this is fatal, because if we put another doom up, I forgot that was actually a storm marker, so now we put out 3 storm markers. So now I think we just lose the game no matter what. I'll look after Lily flips her last storm marker, but I think we just end up losing the game on the spot. I think we just end up ultimately losing the game right here. Because that was our 11th doom. If this is a stamina, it's over right here. This is lose a supply. So let me take a quick look at the board here. We'll advance. We have 1 more. And then, yeah, we have 4 adventures, so there is no way we're going to be able to clear storm markers off, just to see what this would have been. This would have been very difficult to clear to begin with. Advance the clock unless you lose 1 supply on a terror. So yeah, we have lost Elder Sign Omens of Ice. So with that, let's move back up top to wrap this video up. So Ithaqua woke up on us, and because we only had 5 Elder Signs when he got to his 12th Doom, we just lose the game right there. We would have gotten there during the next Mythos phase anyway, so I'm just going to call it there, because I don't think there's anything we could have done. Because we had 2 more investigator turns left, but even without that, we still would have been putting another 7 storm markers out, and I think we only had... I think the most we would have gotten in the bag would have been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we would have had 7 going in. We probably would have gotten another 4 or 5 more between Monty and Diana's turns. But we still would have had way more than... We still would have had way more than enough... Actually, it would have been... No, Lily's turn would have taken us to 9 o'clock, then Monty would have taken us to midnight. So yeah, we still are very much going to lose the game on that, because we weren't going to be able to stop the clock. So yeah, we advanced because we had too many storm markers out on adventures. But anyway, that will do it for this playthrough of Elder Sign Omens of Ice, and that will also wrap up Christmas in Arkham. Thank you for joining me for this journey through Christmas in Arkham. We did come into this game already having won Christmas in Arkham 2-zip. Ithaqua did salvage the win here in Omens of Ice to end up only losing by a score of 2-1, but still, it's been a great amount of fun filming this campaign. This is my first time running this campaign on the channel, so if you have any feedback, I would welcome that in the comments section below in any of the videos. As of now, I hope to turn this into a yearly tradition on the channel, also against a different ancient one. I have at least one other point during the year when I want to run this campaign, but I'll have to figure everything out about that. Midweek next week, we'll wrap up Christmas in Arkham, and then we'll get started with the intro to our winter campaign for Arkham Horror the card game, and then next week, we'll start the winter campaign with whatever the first scenario happens to be. Thank you for watching the video. Please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Be sure to turn on notifications so you get my content. Be well, stay safe, take care of yourselves and your loved ones, and I'll be back with more videos in the future. Until then, take care everyone, and have a very Merry Christmas.